We're going to talk some recruiting here. Now, with Billy Napier fired or new head coach in question, there's not much recruiting to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if Lane is the coach, I think there's going to be some movement. There's going to be some action that happens, some for, some against UF. Maybe some of his players flip to us or other players like ours flipping away. But I think it's notable here that Florida hasn't had a single decommit since Billy Napier has been fired. And it's now been 3 weeks, right? Mm-hmm. So it's been 3 weeks. We haven't had a single decommitment. I know LSU had their first decommitment today from a 4-star linebacker. So I just wanted to kind of come on here, talk a little bit about that, and how much of an emphasis the recruiting world has changed nowadays to where you're 3 months in or 3 weeks in and you still haven't had to decommit after a coach being fired.
Yeah, and not only have you not seen a guy decommit, but you have seen multiple guys kind of reaffirm their commitments.
Yeah.
Do the I committed to a school, not a coach thing. I mean, obviously, a lot of time between now and December. We'll see if that holds. Well, and I think, Sam, saying recruits waiting to see if we get Lane, that kind of brings me to what I think is the most interesting thing about the guys not decommitting, which is that it really makes me wonder if we're witnessing kind of for the first time the way this works now. And we might really get to see firsthand, because like ultimately guys have agreed to deals and money is finite. And ultimately you get late enough in the game where they've locked in, an amount of money they're happy with. Other schools have kind of filled out their budgets. Like it might not be as simple as coach decommits, I'm just going to go wherever I want now. And I'll be curious to see if that holds true, because we could see a situation where Florida's potentially hiring Lane Kiffin or anyone after the early signing period, or, after the start of the early signing period, at least. So it'll be really interesting to see if that continues to hold. I think it would tell you a lot of recruiting being much more about the deal you reached with the NIL collective and the school than it is about your relationship with a coach.
Yeah, I think it's interesting what you just brought up. I mean, you look at Stanford, where Andrew Luck's basically the GM now, and they have Frank Wright as their head coach, but he's a head coach like in the NFL terms, like he's coaching the team. Like he's not going out and recruiting that much. I doubt Frank Wright's really doing anything. That's kind of a program that's ran by Andrew Luck, and all the commits going there probably running through him and everything like that. But we haven't been in the same situation. We don't have someone necessarily like that. But it really does go to show how with these NIL deals, and that's the state of things right now, most of your commits are coming because you probably offered them the highest contract. You probably have the most on the table. I mean, I know of a couple that is true for, not going to name any names here, but I know one of our top recruits, like he committed to us because we offered him the most. And just because Billy was fired, that offer, if it can get pulled by the new coach. But if it's still on the table right now, and the new coach coming pulls it, then he probably flips. But unless someone else goes up there and finally offers him what we're offering, why would he flip? I mean, if that's the biggest reason he committed in the first place, I mean, unless he just hates the coaching hire, I don't see a reason why it would go against us.
Well, I think the kind of interesting dynamic here that we don't really talk about this a lot, and I think it's a little unclear what role this plays at Florida specifically, but like, we don't know what's happening. I mean, I think it's probably fair to assume that like Nick Polk and Jacob LaFrance are not being retained with the new staff, but we don't exactly know what Florida's front office would look like moving forward with Lane or anyone else. You got something to say about that? Or was that just a please?
No words. No comment here.
Yeah. So, no. So I think point being, that's maybe the wild card here is what do not only does Lane or X new coach want to do, but what do whoever's running Florida's front office, personnel operations in a couple months, what do they want to do now? I'd say you're probably, because it's just the timing, I'd say even if you overhaul that front office, they would probably just honor the guys currently committed and kind of punt on recruiting until 2027, just because there's not enough time to do anything else. So that probably doesn't affect anything with this class, but it's just something that's interesting because like with all the talk about Lane and coaching and who Florida's going to hire, I haven't seen a lot of talk about how Florida's going to build out their front office, which is becoming more and more important to teams being successful.
I also think something about what Billy's done on the recruiting trail is something worth talking about with how he's recruited the state. Now, I'm going to go through our current class, and our top 3 commits are out of state guys. So that's kind of funny, but because like Davian Gross, KJ Ford, and Draylen McCoy. I know Draylen McCoy's come out and said he's staying in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the guys that's been very adamant about it. I know KJ Ford just visited Texas Tech, which I think with Billy here, that could be one that's interesting. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about him flipping. And Davian Gross, I know is pretty quiet. Like, I don't know what's going to happen there. But once you get past those 3, and again, McCoy has been pretty adamant about staying. We'll see. CJ Bronow from Winter Garden. I know he said he's committed. He's a Gator. Kendall Gervel from Fort Myers. He said he's a Gator. Justin Williams from Gainesville. Marquez Daniel from Tuskegee, Alabama. I know he has some family relations on the current staff. That's one that could get interesting, but so who knows? And Carson Baker and Hezzy Kent from Southern Georgia. Will Griffin, he's a Gator, no matter the coach if they want him. And then Malik Morris from Lakeland. Caden Hall from Milton. Tyler Chuckham also from South Georgia. CJ Hester from Kakoa, Florida. Chancellor Campbell, St. Petersburg. Janari Carr from Ocala. Kikua Amua from Hawaii. No, I don't expect. I mean, I wasn't expecting him in the class for a while, to be honest, either. But Javari Lucas from Florida and Desmond Green. But most of these guys are fairly local from Florida or Southern Georgia. Like, they're players that are going to have a bit more of a connection with the university than, these kids from Texas. But, like, if I look at Miami's recruiting class, actually, this was kind of something I looked at earlier. Miami got crystal balled for a 3-star defensive lineman out of Delaware. And, top players, a 5-star, who cares where they're from? When you're looking at 3-star defensive linemen, you're building the depth in your class. Should you go out to Delaware for that? Maybe they think this kid's some hidden gem. I don't know.
This was a criticism of Brian Kelly. This was one of the things when I was reading the postmortems of Brian Kelly. It was early on, they were neglecting Louisiana kids to go recruit kind of nationally because that's how they did it at Notre Dame, because that's how Notre Dame recruits. So, I mean, now granted, I'm not saying Miami's not going to still recruit very heavily in Florida and South Florida specifically, but yeah, I mean, that is a concern. Like, there is a balance there that you want to strike.
But, like, getting to my point, like, we've recruited a lot of, more local kids. And, I mentioned, like, you go out to get the best player. But I'm looking at Miami's top 5 commits. Now, Jackson Cantwell's the best offensive lineman in the country. Doesn't matter where he's from. He's from Missouri. And then they got Samaria Winkers from St. Augustine. 4-star receiver from California. 4-star, what is this? Doesn't say the position. I'm not sure. 4-star safety from Kansas. 4-star tight end from California. Like, if Mario Cristobal were to be fired, like, it's not happening, but if he were to be fired, like, why would these players stay at Miami if you're from California, Kansas, California, or Missouri? Now, if you're still being offered that high contract and no one else comes and gets close, obviously that's a reason why you might stay. But a lot of their players, like, from Ohio, like Georgia as well, but like Ohio again, there's not much Miami connection to a lot of these players.
Yeah,
which
and I mean that's
like is pretty opposite of what we were doing.
No, and that's something that's a little concerning, like, even if you don't fire Mario, just because in general, like, how many times have we seen cases where, like, big time recruit commits and signs with a school across the country, doesn't really play, red shirts year 1, and then hits the portal and comes back to a bigger program closer to wherever they're from? Like, we see that happen quite a bit. So it's just something you kind of open yourself up to. I mean, I think looking at Florida's class, like, I think another thing that you didn't really mention, like, talking about going down the list, like, beyond the top few guys, which a lot of them have either affirmed their commitment to Florida or are just local guys that seem, you seem like guys you could pretty easily retain. You start getting to a point too, where it's like, and this isn't to, like, say these guys are not good prospects, but, like, once you start talking about guys that are, like, outside the top 200 in the rankings, those aren't necessarily guys where big spending top programs are, like, hovering like vultures trying to come in and steal them. Like, a lot of times those are your evals. Those are guys that you've decided you want and have, built a relationship with. It's not like, you've got a Georgia or Ohio State, breathing down your neck trying to steal them. So I think that's another sort of dynamic at play here.
And yeah, one thing I also will say with our top two recruits being from Texas, Lagway's also from Texas. We recruit Texas pretty well, comparatively to the rest of our Florida history. One staffer, I hope we can entertain Joe Hamilton. He's from Texas. Like, he's our big Texas recruiter out there. Like, we aren't just going to Texas and randomly finding these guys. Like, these are Joe Hamilton guys. Without Joe Hamilton, these guys would not be committed to Florida. Specifically KJ Ford. So it's like there is a connection there, and if the new staff can retain Joe Hamilton, like that would be a phenomenal from them. But like Florida, the way we recruit, we're not recruiting at an elite level, and I know during the offseason the hope was, hey, finally break out this year where you get more money, where you get more trust from recruits, that you can maybe break into another echelon like we did last offseason with the smaller sample size of breaking into the top. But yeah, we're recruiting pretty well from local players. And we're not talking about the Florida Miami jobs comparatively right now, but once you said outside the top 200, like it's not as much recruiting based on NIL value, more of locality or maybe being local, or maybe a specific coach, or all of these different kids have more value. But that's where Florida really has a big advantage, is those lower 4-star guys. They're from Florida. They're from South Georgia. Like, Florida's the bigger brand. They'd want to come for Florida. Like, that's where Florida really has a big advantage over Ole Miss.
Yeah. And I think, you talk about, like, is the recruiting where we want it to be? Not necessarily, but it could end up proving to be like a pretty good thing because obviously if this class had multiple like 5 stars, they'd be getting a million calls a day, since Billy got fired. But if you can retain at least the bulk of these guys, keep them as the foundation moving forward, that's really key, especially because we'll see how the timing ends up working out, but you could be hiring a coach after the portal. Like, you might be punting on portal acquisitions this offseason. Again, we'll see how that all plays out. But point being,
I don't think so. Portal isn't open until January.
Yeah, and if Lane Kiffin's coaching in January,
I wouldn't expect to be coaching past the first day of January.
Why? Like, I think it's wide open enough that I'm not like saying that's not happening. I think you have to have a contingency plan for that, because it's you have to either have a contingency plan or have a line in the sand and say, we're not going to hire Lane Kiffin if it requires it being announced after January 2nd or whatever. But, that's its own deal. But point being, I think you have to be prepared for the possibility of that.
And I was just looking. So in 2022, our recruiting class was ranked 19th. But that's also not many good transfers. Cam Waits, Jack Miller, Jalen Kimber ended up wasn't even ranked here on Three's transfer rankings. Ricky Pearsall was the 124th. Like, Ricky Pearsall ended up being a phenomenal player, but as a transfer ranking, like, wasn't that good. Montrell Johnson was top 100, just inside 77. Coming with him from Louisiana. And Osiris Torrance was obviously elite. So outside of really those top 3 transfers, we got nothing. Whoever our new coach is, if they can find a way to still get like a 19th ranked class plus transfers, that's still doing better than what Billy did.
Yeah. Well, I think Billy also just needed to take more volume, because, like, to be honest, transfer rankings, in my opinion, are kind of farcical.
I agree. Yeah.
That's not to say, obviously you want guys who have a track record, who have proven experience, but like, if you go, it's a very funny exercise to, like, 2 months into a season, go back and look at like what On3's transfer rankings looked like, because who's the highest rated transfer of the Billy Napier era? It's Joey Slackman, right?
It's technically Cormani.
Oh, true. Maybe even Osiris, but yeah, it's probably point.
Yeah, Osiris was ranked. I have here on Three's ranking was 12.
Okay, point being, Slackman's like a top 3 highest ranked transfer edition of the Napier era, and he barely played. So I think this isn't to say like it's all fake. It doesn't matter, but I'm just saying, like, look at the production, look at the tape, look at the experience. Don't be like, oh, this guy's only ranked 103rd in On3's ranking. Like, I think that's
Yeah. I mean, okay, there's also a little bit with like Jason Zandamela technically being a transfer.
Okay. See, but then
So
I don't like that though, because then the
ranked
transfer
36.
ranking is just identical to their high school rating. Because you'll see guys ratings as a transfer go up or down from their high school, but like Zandamela was just being viewed as the 4-star he was, which that's cool, but it doesn't like you're taking a gamble on a high school player that ideally you're not taking on portal players. That's kind of the whole idea.
Yeah, according to On3, he was our second best transfer behind Osiris Torrance.
Okay.
If you do, or Cormani. So, yeah, like didn't take enough volume there, and again, the rankings like George Gunn, like we've had better players come out from lower transfer rankings, but definitely need to take more volume, which is one thing Kiffin would 100% do, especially that first year.
I do think, yeah, he would definitely do it in year one. I do think it's a little overstated how much he would do that here. Like, I think part of the reason he does that at Ole Miss is because Ole Miss is still not in a position to recruit at the highest level. Now, granted, I think Lane likes transfers more than recruiting. Like, I think Lane sees the like, why would I recruit a high school kid when I could just go get a guy who's proven to me that he can do it? I think there is an element of that, but I also think you would see him build things a little bit differently if he could have a more consistent shot with 5 stars that aren't like 5 stars from the state of Mississippi. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mr. MTG, y'all gonna be sad when Lane tells us to kick rocks.
I mean, yeah, I would be if that happens. It seems to me like it's probably still at least slightly more likely than not that he comes. That just seems to be the vibes that I'm getting. I don't really have inside info on this or anything, so don't quote me on it. But I mean, yeah, I think the options after Lane get significantly less home run-ish for sure.
I definitely still feel confident as of now. Again, like anything can happen, but
I'd say we got to get through this weekend because it would be so perfect for them to announce an extension on like Friday. Like I could so easily see that happening.
Yeah, and let's end this segment here, but with our recruiting talk. But yeah, I'm not going to worry too much about recruiting because when we hire our new coach, it's going to be after signing day or early signing day. You know, there will be another cycle. We'll see who doesn't sign in. I do wonder because there's been a lot of coach firings, and there's still going to be more to come. Do less players sign on early signing day this year? Because you know, over the last 5 years now, it's like 75 to now it feels like it's like 90% of recruits are signing by the earlier signing period. But now that coaches are, you know, there's the 12-team playoff, coaches might be high from the NFL. Like, there's going to be more of a long-term, like, okay, you're offering me more right now, but if, you know, their team's still pretty close and I want to see who you hire. If you hire someone I don't like, I'll take a little bit less money to go play for that coach. So I wonder if you will see a bit more.
Does February signing day still exist? Have they gotten rid of that? Like I'm genuinely I struggle to keep up with all the calendar changes.
I don't necessarily think the signing day to be exact is what matters because players can just enroll when enrollment.
That's a good point. Yeah, we've decided it doesn't matter, and there's no such thing as letters of intent anymore. So.
I mean, let's look at Xavier Lucas.
Yeah, that's a good. No, that's a
because you don't even sign a letter of intent. You sign. What is it you sign?
It's it's I don't remember. I couldn't even tell you the name for it. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't even tell you the name for it because it's so pointless. Like, it is the most meaningless document of all time. There's nothing binding about it. So you might as well not be signing anything.
You're just signing an aid agreement, I think.
Oh yeah, that's what. Yeah, literally is just a financial aid agreement, which again is not binding in any way.
Just look at Dallas Wilson.
Yeah. And we've decided that doesn't matter, and also we've decided, again, in the case of Xavier Lucas, like you said, we've decided we decided you don't even have to enter the transfer portal. You can unenroll and re-enroll, and the NCAA basically was like, yeah, there's really nothing we can do to stop that.
Yeah, but for the rest of the season or after the season, I have a I have a fearing suspicion our recruiting updates are going to be a lot more transfer heavy than what they ever were during the Billy Napier tenure.